Hi, this is Derek Triplett. Let's talk about work relationships. Most of us spend an inordinate amount of time at work. Some people spend most of their time at work. So you're going to have to navigate the relationships that you have to deal with at work. When I say navigate the relationships, I'm not talking about office romance or anything like that. I'm talking about coworker relationships, supervisor relationships, all of those kinds of situations that have to be navigated. And sometimes they can be problematic. Sometimes it's not the stress of your work, it's the stress of who you work with. And so you've got to be able to properly navigate those relationships. Let me give you a couple tips. Number one, be professional. Be professional. Everybody, I know we live in a very casual culture now, but it's very, very important to have some professional standards, professional in your communication, professional in your disposition. Just learn how to be professional. But here's a couple other things. You need to make good decisions. Make good decisions about who you share what with, how much time you share with certain people. When you find toxic people, you've got to make sure that you build a firewall around yourself, both professionally and interpersonally, so that they don't end up pulling you into a toxic situation. Here's the other thing. You've got to be discerning. Watch, discern who's what, who's not judge, not prejudge, but discern, so that you know how to manage yourself. You know what to say to whom, what not to say to whom, who you can share with, who you cannot share with. It's also very, very important that you yourself are disciplined. Be disciplined. Disciplined in your speech, disciplined in your emails, all of the communication. Make sure that you are disciplined, because sometimes you can get angry and you type that email and you need to pump the brakes before you press send. Speaking of emails, make sure that you document well, because when there's a dispute and you've got to sit before an arbitrator, or you've got to sit before your supervisor to see what's going on, the documentation is what's going to put you over the hump. So be disciplined, be discerning, document, cover yourself so that you can have good situations in your work relationships. I'm Derek Triplett.
Why are so many people hurting so badly? Make the relationship more important than the issue. Do you add value to the person that you're connected with? My name is Derek Triplett. This is Better Relationships. And guess what? It gets better from here. Welcome to Better Relationships. My name is Derek Triplett. Nobody likes workplace drama. You know what I'm talking about. The supervisor who's decided to make your life a living, well, we won't say the word, but you know what I'm talking about. Or that coworker who sees you as a threat, and the interaction between him or her is always full of tension. They don't give you the information you're supposed to receive, all of those kinds of things. Or what about when you are the supervisor and you've got this inept employee that you can't fire because he or she is a relative of your boss? All of these kind of workplace dynamics. Coming up next on Better Relationships, we're going to talk about how to manipulate and how to successfully maneuver through workplace relationships. Stay right here. This should be good. So what advice would you give someone who's having difficulty on their job with a coworker?
I would just try to talk to them in a perspective way, and if it's some type of difficulty, to talk it out.
To the coworker?
Yes, to the coworker and whomever is having the problem.
Have you ever had to go to your supervisor with a coworker issue?
I have.
How did it turn out?
Actually, it turned out pretty decent. Yes, we worked everything out, and everything's good. So far, so wonderful.
What advice would you give to millennials about just navigating with coworkers, supervisor? We don't want them to get fired if they have a problem with a coworker. How do we get through that?
Well, that's another thing that you have to be very careful about, because if you're supervising a number of people who are reporting to you, if you're spending a lot of time with your subordinates, you have to make sure that you're spreading it out. I try not to do it at all. That way there's no question about whether or not if you select somebody for something over someone else, there's no favoritism involved. So when we have team outings, that's one thing. But to go out on social outings with individual colleagues that report to you, it's a very difficult thing to do, and I try to stay away from it.
I'm just trying to navigate a difficult supervisor. What advice would you give me?
Well, there's many cases where we always try to pair someone up with a mentor, someone who has a little bit more experience to take on a younger colleague. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And we want employees to seek someone out who can help them navigate their career and their workspace time. So we encourage that all the time. The problem comes in that when you get groups of individuals who start to pair off and divide the department or divide the team and create problems. So we try to do everything as a team. We're pulling all in the same direction, but we try to make sure that everything that's being done on work time is positive and the same page.
Welcome back to Better Relationships. Nobody likes workplace drama. Why? Because it's your livelihood. Nobody wants to get fired on their day off. But we're going to talk about how to manage them. We've got two human resource professionals, experts, to talk to us about how to manage them. We've got Robin King, who's the CEO of a job placement organization. And then we've got Faye Datsey, who's spent 30 years as a human resource professional. You all have seen it all when it comes to workplace relationships. What are some of the do's and don'ts to stay out of trouble when it comes to workplace relationships?
I think that one of the things that's really important to understand about a workplace is what the policies and procedures are from a human resources perspective, because that becomes your guide to how you should conduct yourself in that particular workplace. Once you understand that, then there may be also unwritten rules or practices within the department or the division that you work in under a particular manager or supervisor, but the overarching guidance comes from the policies and procedures
So
written
know the
in your
book.
manual. Yes.
Know the protocols, know the procedures.
Yes.
Robin, you place a lot of people, your organization places. How do you prepare them to not just execute the job, but to deal with the relationship dynamic?
Part of that, what Faith just said, is finding out what the company culture is, which is kind of a newer term. I think we used to call it office politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Figuring out what's what.
What's the culture?
The other is really stop making stuff up in your head, because a lot of things, I think a lot of that drama that is experienced in the workplaces, we assume someone's done something with either intent or malice behind it when they did something and they didn't realize that somebody else has perceived it a particular way. So you have to be open-minded enough to not just immediately jump to conclusions that are going to take you down that rabbit hole of someone did something to me.
Well, what happens when you do get the problem employee? How does what do you do with him or her?
Are you asking that from a manager or supervisor's perspective?
From a manager's and supervisor's perspective, and then we'll ask it from a coworker's perspective.
Okay. I think from a manager or supervisor's perspective, there's normally what's called progressive discipline.
Okay.
So you start out with a conversation, trying to understand what's really going on. Is it a lack of training?
Okay.
Or is it a lack of willingness? So is the person not able to do the job, or are they not willing to do the job? And depending on what you discover from that, it takes you down one path or the other. If they're not able, then it's an opportunity for you to step in and to make sure that they have all the training and coaching and mentoring and whatever that they need. If they're unwilling to do the job, then that person still may be salvageable, but maybe they're just misplaced.
Well, Robin, what if it's not about their ability to do the job? What if it's attitudinal? When you get people ready and do the whole job preparedness thing, how much is attitude, disposition, showing up at work on time, all of those kinds of things?
Well, it's also preparing them to work for a manager who might not be trained to be a good manager.
Wow.
So going back to what Faith was just saying as well, that training, it's not just about the frontline employee. It's we all are guilty of promoting someone because they were really good at their job. And then we said, okay, here, take on these extra responsibilities, and you're also going to supervise these people.
The old Peter principle.
Yes, without training them on how to actually supervise people, or what that, you have a very different relationship when you're coworkers, and now all of a sudden you've been promoted over your coworkers, or you're just new to that particular role and don't realize that conversations happen differently. So it's not always the frontline person. So it's also preparing that person who's going to be frontline how to navigate, and having honest conversations.
Faye, are we getting better or worse with just basic people skills?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that really, but I think that we have certainly more tools that are available to us to be able to negotiate those things and to learn about people. But I do think that it's the responsibility of supervisors and leaders to create an environment where every employee can contribute optimally. And oftentimes that does not happen.
Right.
And so one of the things we learned years ago is everything rises and falls on leadership.
Right.
And so good leadership generally will produce good employees. And so I think that a good leader will take the time to know what really buttons to push, what motivates a person, what demoralizes them, and then create that environment where those employees are able to contribute.
Okay, Robin, what if it's not a figment of my imagination? What if I haven't made it up? What if my coworker has it out for me and I can prove it? And I come to you and say, this is a problem. Here is the proof. Where do we go from there?
So going back to that leadership, whoever the leader, manager, to talk to, especially since you said they have proof. That's usually the difficult part of having something that's really, that documents what's happening. And if it's a good, and again, I keep referring back to what Faith has said, but that whole, are they in the right place? Is there a reason behind that? And getting to that without attacking, it's just, if someone's doing something to that way, there's got to be some kind of reason behind it, that they don't think that they were being acknowledged enough or recognized enough. Because that's one of the things that's also very difficult, is determining how to recognize a large group, because we all like to be recognized in different ways. So to kind of get to the root of that, and again, it's an honest conversation, a hard conversation, that I wouldn't sit both of them down and say, why are you doing this? It really is a one-on-one. This has been brought to me. This is what I've seen. I want to hear your side of it, because there's three sides to the story. There's his, hers, and the middle part, right? And so that's what you need to investigate, if you will, and determine what's really going on.
When we come back, we're going to talk about this whole issue of supervising the difficult and how you manage that. We'll be right back on Better Relationships.
Hey, let's go back over to the Q&A corner. This is a question from Jamie from Atlanta. There's a young lady at work that I really, really like, but I'm hesitant to ask her out because it's a work situation. Man, Jamie, that's tough. You don't want to get fired on your day off. You want to make sure that you kind of keep workplace romances out. If you all are not in the same department, or she's in the same, but if you got to work together, you might not want to do that. Now, if she's worth you going to find another job for, then go do that. But if she's not worth you going to find another job for it, don't do it. Don't do it. I know I'm laughing, Jamie, and I take your question really, really seriously, but I'm hoping that you are listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Don't do it. Don't do it. I hope that helps.
Welcome back to Better Relationships. I'm really trying to make sure you don't get fired because of other people that you happen to work with. Because guess what? You got bills to pay. We've got two great human resource professionals here with us. Faye, when you are the supervisor and you've got the difficult employee. Once you've gone through the protocols, you've tried to save him or her, does letting them go become difficult from a relationship perspective? I don't want to let you go. I like you, but you got to go.
Yeah. We used to have a saying that we don't terminate anyone, you terminate yourself.
Okay.
And so, no, because what you can live with yourself because you have gone through the process. You've given them all the tools to be successful. You have told them exactly what's expected. You've given them time frames around when it should be done. You've met with them in that probationary period while they're working, trying to save their job. You've told them what will happen if they do complete that time successfully. You've told them point blank what will happen if they don't. So that when you sit down to have that termination conversation, the die is cast.
Wow.
There should be no surprises.
Right.
Okay. If I come into an organization, let's say it's my personality to come in and do my job, I do my job and I go home. I make the contributions that I make and then I go home. But some say that can be the wrong approach. There are some relationships I should intentionally be trying to make. Should I try to get a best friend at work, at least in my workspace?
I think we all need a comrade in arms.
Okay.
You know, that someone that you enjoy spending time with, and whether that's the person you vent to or you go to when you're, especially if you're a new employee and you're looking to navigate, I think companies are responsible to create an environment where that can happen as well. That I've worked for companies that they didn't want to have any kind of socialization. They wanted you very independent. Performance is not as high when you have that kind of siloed, you know, that when there's more of a team, if I'm friends with my coworkers, then I'm not doing it just for my job. I'm doing it for the company because I like the people I work with. And that's a very different environment. Right. And I think that's what businesses are starting to hire more around, that company culture piece. Okay. Because our cultures are all very different, but that's something you can even interview for on the type of culture that you want to work in. You know.
And if the culture is wrong, can I get to a point where I say, I don't fit here, and I need to go do something else, or I need to go do what I'm doing somewhere else?
And I think more people are being let go because they haven't.
Okay.
You know, it used to be that you were fired because you didn't know a particular hard skill. The majority of people now, I think, who are let go is being more around soft skills.
What would you say to a person who dares to get involved romantically in their workplace?
Don't.
Short answer.
There's a very rude saying that comes to mind. No, it's just not a good idea.
Just don't do it.
Just don't. There are unlimited ramifications from office gossip to possible legal implications to emotional outbursts to teammate people choosing up sides about if there's a breakup.
So just don't do it.
Just don't.
Just don't do it.
That's my final answer.
I think we stop there. I think, sis, he's handsome. Go get another job. If you want him, go get another job. Sir, she's beautiful. Find someplace else to work because you could get fired on your day off. I'm Derek Triplett. We'll be right back. Listen, you've got to navigate your workplace situation. Wherever you work, be mature, be knowledgeable, be nice. Do those things that are necessary to make this a good situation. And guess what? If you don't fit, you don't fit. Start to look for somewhere else to work. Listen, I want your work life to be happy. You're going to make it that way. This is Better Relationships. My name is Derek Triplett. It gets better from here. My work is not possible without the support of a tremendous family. We are not a perfect family. We have our scars and our stains. But being a triplet is a great honor to me, and I take pride in it. I want to thank my wife, my children, my parents, and my brother and sisters for their support and their encouragement. I also have some close friends who really want to see me win.
I want to thank them for helping to keep me going. Without them, I couldn't be here for you.